Hey guys, welcome back to the Python programming series. Now we're going to talk about positional and keyword arguments in Python. So as we've been learning about functions, we learned that we can define a function like this, and then we define these two parameters here, so that anytime you call the describe pet function, you have to pass in values for these two parameters, or arguments, right? Now the way that we've been doing it so far is using positional arguments. So if we do describe pet, let's pass an animal type, we'll say something like dog, and then give him a name, I'll say Luna. These are positional arguments, and this is because the position of the arguments, the values that you pass in, correlates to the parameters that you have defined for the function. So for example, if I pass in the string Luna as the second argument to this function call here, it's obviously going to correspond to the pet name, not the animal type. Since dog is the first one, that will correspond to the first parameter. So it's pretty simple, right? Based on the position of the argument that you pass in, it corresponds to the corresponding parameter. So I'm going to copy this down, paste it, and so with keyword arguments, you can pass in your arguments by specifying a name, and then now it doesn't need to be in that exact order. So for example, let me just show you how you can do it. You can do animal type, and it's already suggesting it for you, which is corresponding to the name of the parameter. So animal type is equal to dog, and then we can do pet name. We could say pet name is equal to Billy. So we have a dog named Billy. So now here we're still calling the function the same way. The only difference is that we're passing in our arguments using keyword arguments instead of positional arguments. So we are effectively explicitly saying that the dog value is assigned to the animal type parameter, and the string Billy is assigned to the pet name parameter, okay? And so since we're being explicit where we're saying what goes to what, we can also reorder it. So it's no longer going to be positional. So now we can do pet name first, even though it's the second parameter, and then animal type second, even though it's the first parameter. It doesn't matter anymore because we're explicitly saying which value goes to what parameter. So that is the two main benefits of keyword arguments. One is that you're very clear on what goes to what, so Billy goes to pet name and dog goes to animal type. And then two, you can put in any order that you want. It no longer depends on the position. And if you want to, you can mix up the usage of positional and keyword arguments. You just need to make sure that you follow a few rules, such as a positional argument cannot follow a keyword argument. And I think this one's a little obvious if you think about it. So here we're specifying pet name as Billy, right? Which is the second parameter. So pet name is Billy, and then we're providing a value for dog. But since we are now saying that the second parameter is coming first, Python doesn't know what this corresponds to anymore. Does it go to animal type? Does it go to pet name? Since this is just a single value with no keyword, it doesn't know what parameter to correspond to. So the simple rule as you hover over this is that positional arguments cannot appear after keyword arguments, okay? So that's it. So if I want to, I can still do, let's say, animal type first as a positional argument. So I could say cat. And then if I wanted to, I can do pet name as a positional argument. If I want to be extra clear in what I'm passing in, I could say Joe. So here we are able to mix positional and keyword arguments. Just make sure that positional arguments come first. That's simple enough. Some of the most common use cases for keyword arguments is actually when you have functions defined with the default parameter values. So for example, here we have create user profile. It takes in a name and an age, and then city, occupation, and is verified have default values assigned to them, so they are optional effectively, right? So if we want to call this function, we do create user profile. We could pass in Cody and 24, right? So we're calling the function, we're passing in the only two required parameters, name and age. If we want to, we can make these keyword arguments, no problem. So name is equal to Cody, and then since this is a keyword, right, this one also needs to be a keyword, so age is equal to 24. But the main benefit here is that what if we want to call create user profile, pass in name and age because they're required, and then we don't want to pass in a city, we just want to use the default, but we do want to pass in occupation or is verified. Let's try doing that. So if we do create user profile, Cody 24, and then we don't want to do city, we want to do occupation, let's just say, we'll say, steel worker. Obviously, Python has no idea that this value here corresponds to occupation and not city. So to be able to properly skip it so that city uses the default, and then you provide the actual value for this one, you can use a keyword argument. So you can do occupation is equal to steelworker. And now, not only is it clear to Python that you're trying to pass in a value for occupation, but also just as a programmer, it's more clear that you're passing this to this. So I think it's good either way. So keyword arguments are just very beneficial for clarity, but also for default arguments as well. So if we want to, we can also do is verified. But since it's following a keyword argument, this also needs to be a keyword argument. So is verified is equal to true, we'll say. So that's how you can do that as well. Now, sometimes you're going to be using functions that other people provide to you and you import them, or maybe you just define your own function that looks like this. You can see it's a function that does some sort of calculation and it has a bunch of parameters that represent the variables of whatever formula this is, right? So when you're calling this function complex calculation, it's a little hard to keep track of what you're passing in. So we can do, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So we know that one corresponds to this and this goes to this and so on, right? But if you're just looking at this, it's a little hard to read it, right? So if you want to make it more clear, you could do A is equal to 1, B is equal to 2, is equal to 3, D is equal to 4, E is equal to 5, and F is equal to 6. Now, as you're looking at this function call, you can see, it's a lot more clear to read it, in my opinion. So just as a general rule, at best practice, whenever you have a function like this that you're trying to call, and the parameters are not exactly named the best, or there's just a lot of them, using keyword arguments can be beneficial just for clarity. And that's pretty much it, everybody. That's all I'm going to show you for this episode. That's how you can use positional and keyword arguments with functions in Python. So hopefully you guys are enjoying the series so far. You found this video interesting and you're learning a lot. Keep watching, keep learning, keep practicing, and you're going to be a Python expert in no time. So thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you guys next time, and peace.